previous lecture. No, we will take our time to look at the rite of passage into details. If not this semester, probably next semester, you look at it into details and study how it is being done, right? And from one society to the other, you look at the marriage institution, right? Where I think at time we read an article that is female husbands, female wives with no male husbands. You understand? That is same-sex marriage. That is marriage between a woman and a woman in some parts of the African countries. Yeah, I don't know whether your lecturer is going to give you the article to read, but it was a very good article, like a very good one, which enlighten you where the marriage between the female, the two women is not sexual, it's not a romantic relationship, but it has some social significance. It's just for social significance, and with time, we will learn the rite of passage into detail. So for now, we just have to know that from naming ceremony, puberty rites, the marriage, then the funeral rites. So you just have to know them. So without wasting much time, if you have any question, you can raise your hands and I will attend to that. So is there any question from our previous I just ended session? Any question? But I hope you understand everything that I'm teaching. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I was asking a question. Do you understand whatever that I was teaching?
Yes, please,
Or I was moving fast?
I understand. No, it was okay for me.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's good. Okay, so now I think from last week when I started by giving you a broad idea about social structure. See, in sociology, to better understand and grasp what sociology is all about, you can't do that without understanding the social structure. Because that is what the study of sociology is about. The scientific and systematic study of human social behavior, the social structures, that is institutions, right? So you can't understand sociology very well without understanding holistically the issues regarding the social structure. You understand? And you cannot talk about social structure without talking about social institutions. And you cannot talk about the social institutions without talking about the building blocks or the components, the elements of those social institutions. So it is in that order. So when you break the elements of those social institutions together, that is when you are going to get a good and a holistic understanding view of the social structure that we are talking about. You understand? And uh, okay. All right. So just as the name goes, you see that there's a structure, right? Social structure, and there's an adjective that is trying to modify the structure that we are talking about. So just the social structure, it's just a structure. Now, when you look at a structure, you see that this structure, when you see a structure over there, you see a building over there, you see a design over there, you realize that no, this thing has been carefully designed, right? And every component, every aspect of the structure is performing a particular role or is contributing something towards what the existence of that particular. Yes, okay. All right. So you see that every aspect of the structure is playing a particular role towards the existence of that particular structure. right? Or towards the durability of that particular structure. That if one structure fails, it can bring down every other thing. You understand? If one particular structure fails, it can bring down everything. So you see that every role by any of the elements or any of the components of the structure is very, very important. So you can liken it to your human body. The day that the head will say that, no, I want to play the role of the leg, that is when you see a human being that is turned upside down. When you see that particular human being, you are going to run away because the head is refusing to play the role of the head. And that is the same thing the social structure is. So the social structure, yes, is a structure. The society in itself is a structure. Society did not just happen, just as those people, the Big Bang Theory, is just something just happened. But there is some. The other time I spoke about some typification, the things that we have all agreed, whether directly or indirectly, whether you were socialized into it. But so far as you are moving with it and all that, you becomes part and parcel of it. You have agreed to it. So therefore that consensus that this is how things is supposed to be done. Right? This is how things is supposed to be done. And you realize that there are some components, some elements of the structure that performs certain functions in order to make sure that the structure endures and there's a foreseeable future, in order to make sure that there is some level of collaboration, some level of harmony in the society. And these components are what we call the social institutions. So the social institution, we look at Premier, you look at, yeah, that's just the acronym, Premier. So you look at political institution, religious, economic institution, you look at the marriage and family institution, right? And what have you. You have the health institution, right? How medicine is, all these things. As time goes on, you are going to learn all these things. So it is really, really important for us to know what social structure is. So we are talking about social structure. We are basically talking about the arrangement of the various social institutions according to the role that each of them perform is what we call the social structure. So bringing the aggregation, bringing the social institutions together and arranging them based on the functions that each of them perform towards the satisfaction of our needs as human beings, as social beings, is what we call the social structure. Do you understand? And when you're talking about the social institutions, we are talking about the normative, just as Nukunya said, the normative patterns of behavior the, structured around the basic needs of humans in the society. Right? It's structured around. Now, normative patterns of behavior, normative is in the sense that it has been agreed upon. Just as I said, directly or indirectly, it has been agreed upon, whether explicit or implied, whether manifest or latent, it has been agreed upon. That is why it's a normative patterns of behavior. So you see the repetition. You see that this particular pattern is being repeated day in and day out. Just ask yourself the number of generations that has paid bride prices and all that when they want to marry. It runs through generation to generation, from one generation to the other. Besides, you are not the first person that has been through University of Ghana. You are not the first person that is learning sociology. So it's a normative pattern of behavior, especially when it comes to the sociology department. Even you may have a normative pattern of behavior or of behavior for the entire University of Ghana as a whole. But when it comes to the Department of Sociology, you will see that the Department of Sociology has its own culture. For example, let me use the Vandals as an example. You would realize that The university has, an overall patterns of behavior, how students are supposed to behave and all that. But when you come to the Vandals, you see that these people, they also have their shared beliefs and practices, their patterns of behavior, how they go about interacting with each other in their world. And if you can't fit in there, then you shouldn't go in there. I remember there was a time that I was I went to the Commonwealth Hall. That was even before this in and out system of accommodation, that kind of, even before it wasn't. So I went to Commonwealth Hall and I saw one of the chiefs coming. I was actually facing the person. I didn't know. I was totally ignorant of it until a friend of mine prompted me that, senior, you better step aside, because if I had met him face to face, maybe the beatings that I would take, you understand, and all those things are there. They all make sure that the culture, the the continuity of their culture, the solidarity when it comes to the Vandals is being maintained. And at the end of the day, there is some level of foreseeable future when it comes to the cultural norms being maintained. You understand? And that is the essence of the social institutions that we are talking about. So day in and day out, if you want to get married, we have the normative patterns of behavior you are supposed to put up, practices you are supposed to do in order to get married. When you want a political position, there are some procedures you have to go through in order to be qualified, right? And if you want to be healed, there are some things that you are supposed to do. Are you going to pacify the gods? Are you going to the hospital? What are you going to do when you are suffering from a particular kind of sickness? What are you going to do? The health institution is going to show you how you are supposed to go about it. Like when you want to allay your fear of the mystical, when you want to have some level of emotional support, you want to have a group where you can feel that you have a sense of belonging, you can relate to. The religious institution is there for you, that you don't just believe whatever that you just choose to believe, but you believe whatever the group you find yourself as a whole has chosen to believe. You understand? And that's the reason why in African Ghanaian society, there are some religious beliefs that help us to be able to understand and know how we are going to relate with the supernatural. And that is the essence of the social institutions. So they are there to help us, perform and meet our basic needs as participants of the society. And so we are going to go, I think I've already given that introduction. So we are going to skip all these things, right? So the concept of social structure, I've mentioned that. So the idea of social structure actually came in when after the Second World War, with that the idea of social structure actually came in after the Second World War. So society, there was some disorderliness in the society, and there were some countries that wanted to, rebuild their societies from the ashes or from the damages that the Second World War has caused. And so they actually sought for anthropologists, sociologists to help them understand how the society works. And that is where the idea of social structure started becoming rampant. That is after the Second World War. Right? That is when the idea of social structure started becoming rampant. So, Herbert Spencer, was the first sociologist to throw light on the structure of the society. Right? So he was too much fascinated by his biological analogies to organic structure and evolution to make clear which he meant by the structure of the society. So he used the biological analogies, organic structure to explain, he used the human structure to explain how the society also works. You understand? That the moment that the health institution ceases to exist, you will see that there is some level of lapses in the system. People will start dying because there is no proper healthcare in our society. You understand? The moment the marriage, the core values of the marriage is the marriage institution, the marriage and the family institution has been overlooked, you will see that a lot of people are going to misbehave. Right? You see that people will be having, intercourses just by heart, living their lives the way they want to live because their attitudes, their behavior is not being structured by these institutions. There's some level of anomy, that is a word, in the society so far as the marriage institution is concerned. You understand? So yeah, I've spoken about all these things. I've spoken about Prime and characteristics of the social structure. So the social structure is an abstract and intangible phenomena. So the social structure is comparatively a permanent concept. So whether you like it or not, until the world comes to an end, the social structure is still going to coexist. It will still be there. It has survived from ages past. It has been passed on from one generation to the other. And it's also a patterned arrangement. It's a patterned arrangement. And it's normative based, right? It has been agreed upon. It becomes a norm, how things are supposed to be done, how things are supposed to be in the society. So the social structure indicates external forms. Now, you can look at the idea of social facts, the things that are external to the individual and affect the way that the individual also behaves, right? So that is how the social you see that the social structure some way somehow is outside of the individual. It's not part of your biological makeup, it's outside of you. That helps to put your behavior in check. You look at the social structure is influenced by local conditions. So, in level 400 or 300, you learn something about historical particularism, right? Where the idea is that every society has their own distinct history. And so, what is considered as sacred in Ghana may be considered as profane in America. What is considered as sacred in America may be considered as profane in Ghana. So the social structure is cultural specific. You understand? Yes, that notwithstanding the fact that you can have one one or two institutions, one or two patterns that runs through universally from one country to the other or from one culture to the other. But there are some in general, it is what it is local specific or it is cultural specific. Now let's look at the constituents of social institutions. So when you take every social institution, just as I mentioned, that when you take the social structure, you have the structure. Just as you see a building, you see the window, you see the door, you see, the furnitures in there, no, you see the painting, all those are performing something. Now, let's take the door. What forms the door? In the door, you will see that there is wood in there. We have the door lock. Those are the constituents of the door as a social institution. So when you take one social institution, you are supposed to see all these constituents. Number one, you're supposed to see the social need that particular institution is supposed to perform. So in respect to the door is supposed to make sure to prevent unauthorized access into that particular apartment or into that particular building. So that is the need is there to perform. What are the values, right? What are the values? When I'm talking about the values, what are the things that we hold dear? What are the things that we value, right? So in that particular family, in that, for instance, the family institution, what are the values? What are the things that we hold so dear? Number one, chastity. We also value marital fidelity, that you shouldn't cheat on your husband. You can't be married and be sleeping around. And that is the core value when it comes to the family institution. My brothers and sisters, the family institution is very, very important because it is at the basic or it forms part of the basic or the basis of our society. Without the family, there's no society. Without the family. See, the educational institution, religious institution, economic institution, politics, health, they are all important. But when the family is out, You can't have the educational institution. You can't have who are you going to educate? You understand? Now, when I'm talking about the family, somebody will say that, oh, animals too, they do socialize their children. Yes, they themselves, they can also consider themselves as family. So if there is no person to begin with, who are you going to educate? Who there will be no person to even relate with God. What I There will be nothing for you to do because there's nobody in the society in the first place. So that is the reason why, if you want to check the strength of the society, you also need to look at the population of the society. The population is really, really important. Recently, we heard that North Korea, their leader was crying that they are not giving birth. Because you are not giving birth, at the end of the day, the aged will go, they will die and leave. And who is going to continue and make sure that the cultural values, the norms, and the statuses are being, transferred from one society to the other? So it's really important to look at the values of that particular social institution. You look at the norms, how are things supposed to be done? In as much as we have the social needs, we have the values, how do we go about fulfilling that particular need? Yes, the family institution is supposed to regulate our sexual behavior. That is a need it's supposed to fill, right? But how is it supposed to be done? Do you just go ahead and just take someone, hey, come, I want to marry you by hook or crook, I'm going to marry you? No, there are some accepted norms, some accepted ways of getting married in the society, and that is being performed by the family institution. The statuses and the rule. Now there is something. Now we have the social need. The need is supposed to fulfill. We have the values, the things you cherish. How you are supposed to. That is the norms. How you are supposed to fulfill those particular needs. Then who should be the participants, right, of those norms? Who should perform those particular norms? That is what brings us to the statuses and the rules. So we need to look at creating a particular office for someone and giving the person the authority to be able to perform. That is a rule. Giving the person what is expected of you to do. So, for instance, when you take the family institution, you have the husband, and the husband is supposed to make sure that the family is well fed. You understand? The husband is supposed to make sure that the children are being disciplined. So the status here is the husband. But what is the role that the husband is performing? Making sure that the family is fed day in and day out. We can also look at the social groups. So in every institution, you will see a group of people. Now we are talking about group of people. We have we are talking about the fact that, even just as I mentioned, even in the University of Ghana, we have sociology sociology students, we have accounting students, we have archaeology students, and these groups, they have a common characteristics that distinguishes them from other social groups. You understand? So in every institution, these are the five basic components you're supposed to see in every social institution. So in educational institution, you're supposed to, the value, the need is to transmit knowledge. That is socialization. And values, intellectual curiosity. This person is really smart. Just bear in mind, you are not necessarily talking about uh, uh, you are good GPA wise. Yes, is good in a way for your GPA to be in a good shape. You understand? And just so I say this, GPA is but a metrics, and it doesn't necessarily show that you have, or it doesn't necessarily explain and tell you your level of intelligence. No. So if you have B in a particular subject while you were expecting an A, please don't think that you are dumb or you there with you. No, no, no. It shouldn't be that way. It's just but a metrics, and it may not be faithfully representative of your intellectual and your cognitive ability. It may not be representative of that, but it's just a metrics that we use to measure, because measuring your intelligence is something that is abstract. You can't see someone's intelligence, so at least you need to have some metrics. That is the reason why those like GPA metrics has been developed to measure that in order to score points and all that. But that does not necessarily mean that it puts a cap on your level of intelligence. So you will see that some people who are good academic wise, yes, they will get all the GPAs and everything, but they will end up working for those who were not that good. So if these people academic, the GPA, the A's you are getting and all that actually shows your level of intelligence. Why is it at the end of the day you were not able to make something better out of it, but you are now working for those who had lower grades and all that? Yes, it's good and it's admirable to get to work hard and get all the A's, get the first class and all that. But if you don't get, please, that is not the end of the world. Believe me, that's not the end of the world. So don't worry, you'll be fine. So you take the religious institution to you look at the social needs, the values, the norms, the statuses, and the groups. Please, at this point, is there any question? Is there any question? So the social needs, the values, the norms, and statuses in social groups is well understood. Please, you can unmute yourself and answer. Is well understood. Can you hear me at all? Wow. I guess I'm in this alone, eh? Oh, you can't unmute. Oh, yeah, yeah. That is because uh they were making noise, so I had to mute everybody. That's fine. Okay, so I've disabled that. So that's fine. So please, if you have any question, you can let me know.
Oh,
All right. So let's continue. Since there is no question and we are all okay, let's continue. Okay. Now let's look at the status roles as an element of a social structure, right? Or as an element of a social institution. So you will see that in sociology, because the social structure is just aggregation of the social institutions, right? According to the arranged according to the roles that each of them perform. Sometimes you see that they use social structure and social institution interchangeably. You understand? They use it interchangeably, but it's all good. So defining status. So now you're talking about the status, you're talking about the position, right? That you occupy as a member of a particular society or the position. Now, when I'm talking about society, not necessarily not necessarily Ghanaian society or whatever. But when I'm talking about society, I'm talking about where work. When you go to the workplace is also considered as a social place. So, in a sense, it's considered as a society because there are people, with similar characteristics, with similar goals, like coming together, working together, with shared, in every organization, they have their values, some integrity, objectivity, professionalism, excellence, and all that. And all these people at the workplace, they share in them. So when you come to the workplace, you see the general manager, you come to the workplace, you see the HR manager and what have you. And all those are the statuses that are there for them to be occupied. And these status have their various distinct roles. So far as you are an occupant of that particular status, you are supposed to perform that particular role. And that actually leads us to role expectation and role performance. So in this empirical world, there is always a gap. There is always a gap between the role expectation and the role performance. So the role expectation is the role that is expected by virtue of you occupying a particular status. That's role expectation. And the role performance, you are talking about the actual performance of the person occupying that particular status. So day in and day out, you would realize that you as a student, you want to it's expected of you to make sure that you go to lectures every day, you do your assignments, you do not use ChatGPT to be writing your assignment, you do not do whatever. By the end of the day, you realize that there are some of them that you fall short of, and there are some of them that you are able to achieve. But come what may, there is always that gap between the role expectation and the role performance. You understand? So a state occupant is expected to behave in a special way relative to a specific situation. I mentioned that. So you can't tell the son to be doing the duties of the father. You can't tell the father to be doing the duties of the mother. Hey, is like going to tell the father that please, I want you to conceive, have the child in your belly for 9 months, then you just go to the labor ward and you just go and do push, push, push. You can do it. You can do it. No, it's never done. So by virtue of the role that we are all playing, the status that we all occupy, defines and determines the role expectation of us and how well we are all doing in that particular role. Let's look at the types of statuses and uh, so we are talking about the types of statuses now. Let's look at there are some statuses that you have control over, right? That you worked hard for to achieve them. And those are the achieved or the acquired status. Now, whatever that you are doing right now, you are a student, you really worked hard. You worked hard to become a student of sociology, a student of the University of Ghana. You had to pass your WASI. So you worked harder to achieve that particular status, to have that particular status, right? And we have ascribed the ascribed status. You got that particular status just by virtue of you being born. So that one you didn't ask for it. I'm not sure there was anybody, if there is any one of us that the person is asked to choose the family or the country or the continent in which you want to be born in, the person will say that I want to be born in Africa. Can we or you choose, you know, US and all the developed countries you have in mind. So because it's an ascribed status, you don't have any control over them. And those subscribe status sometimes is really difficult to change them. But with the advent of technology right now, a lot of people are changing. They say that me, I feel like I relate like a boy. So you go and you do that. So with the advent of technology, you see that even though they have scribe statuses, some are trying to work their way around it and all that. But those statuses are the things that whether you like it or not, it will be with you till you die. You can't say that you were born, you are an Ewe, so I don't want to be an Ewe, so that's all. No, whether you like it or not, you can trace your lineage through that particular ethnicity. Your family background, you can't change it. You understand? You don't have any control over them. So those are ascribed status and achieved status. Let's look at the status that rose an element of a social structure. I think I've made mention of that. Now, sorry. Now let's talk about the idea of a status set. Then now you can see that you as a student, you have some rules. Some of us are beloveds. Some of us have boyfriends, some of us have girlfriends, and some of us are single. We are singularly single. You understand? And as a single person, there's a rule that is expected of you. You are not expected to go and ask someone, have you eaten? How was your day? No, 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 no. You are not, because you are single. You understand? And that is the reason sometimes when you are filling a form, they'll ask you your marital status. You understand? So it's a category, it's an office. So some of us, it's an office that has been created for you. You see, whether you like it or not, there are some of you that you may not find or better have even after graduation. Some of you may not even find it that's where you're going to do your national service. Some of you may even find a person at the marketplace. That's when your status is going to change. So as soon as your status is changed, another role is expected of you. So you see that you, that same person, you are a student, you are a daughter, you are a son, you are someone's beloved, you are a church executive, you are this, you are that, and all those statuses that you occupy, there are some expectations that is required of you to meet. And that is what I said, the role expectation. So the totality of all the position or statuses a person occupied is referred to as a status set. So as you are there, you can think about the roles that you are playing right now. Some of you who have turned yourself into chefs cooking for boys, on campus, and the boys are also cooking for the girls on campus. You yourself, you can relate. You understand? So right now, whether you knew or you didn't know, that's your status right now. You have a status right now, so you need to make sure that you do according to the dictates of that particular status. So the totality of all the statuses that you occupy is what we call a status set. So I've explained that, and you see, there's also what we call the master status. The master status, as I mentioned, that one, it will be with you. It's difficult to change it. Something like your sex is difficult to change. It's difficult. You will tell that gender is a social construct, but changing your sex, oh, it's difficult to change it. Like, you can go and do some transplants and all that, but the genes, the chromosomes the hormones that you have, the chromosomes that you have is still that of a boy or a girl. You understand? So those are the master status. So those status, they are consistent. They don't change. They be with us whenever. So somebody that becomes a disabled person, you understand? At that particular instant, it's that particular position that you find yourself in. It lingers until death. You understand? And somebody will say that once a soldier, always a soldier. And so if once you become a soldier, whether you're a retired soldier, everywhere you see you are going to call you soldier man. In a Ghanaian context, you're going to call you a soldier man. So that is a master status. Wherever you go, people see you as such. Wherever you go, people see you as such. We've talked about achieved and ascribed status. Now, status symbols. So there are some symbols that you don't need, or you don't need the person to tell you that this is the kind of status I occupy. Just by virtue of that symbol, you are able to faithfully represent that this person is occupying this particular status. So when you see the way the lady is dressed, the picture on top, nobody should tell you that this is a policewoman. When you see the way the lady too down there is dressed, nobody should tell you that the person is a nurse. You understand? All those are the symbols. So status symbols, they can come from a dress. For those who are married, you can see it from the ring. You understand? You can see from the ring. And you see me right now of late, some of the things that me I've seen right now is that most of the people, who wear, necklaces with a heart symbol on top, I've seen that no, this is somebody that has a beloved, probably was given to. Okay, so I'll touch on the master status again. Right. So probably that necklace was given to the person. So you can know that this person is not single. The person is double. So please, we can have our last session. I think this one is so by 9:30 we should be done. So the time is up. So I'll stop this recording. Then we'll continue. I will explain the master status. Then we continue. Then we take it from there. All right. So let me just end this.